My name is Tugba Aydin Ozturk, and I'm postdoc researcher in sociology at the University of Manchester. And my PhD is on musicology and music theory, but now I'm mostly working on music sociology, art and culture politics, and of course music industry. And my studies are mostly about music business, social capital, digital technologies and relationships between social media and music world. So today I'll make a presentation about the behavior of and habits of audience and artists in the digital age. I'm also a professional musician. I'm a singer. I perform classical/traditional Turkish music, and that's why I choose the name of this study, being an insider, because now I have different roles here. Yes, and I had the chance to have different roles such as researcher, observer, participant, interviewer, or interviewee in this research, and these studies are still going on. They are still very, very new at the beginning. I'm going to share the first assumptions with you today. And as we all know, digital media presents a great number of different websites, so I had to restrict the fieldwork and only focused on major social networking websites such as Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, YouTube and Instagram, and I'm still making observations. I analyzed an official Facebook artist page, which is mine, and I also made interviews with 15 musicians and employees of in the entertainment industry. And many of these interviews were face-to-face interviews, and I'm still analyzing the data. And for the others, I send them the questions by email, social media messaging, or just phone conversation. And a survey was conducted with 200 people to understand the social media usage of the followers. And these people range from 15 to 60 years old and live in big cities in Turkey, especially in Istanbul. And participants have a different level of education, socio-cultural background, and economic backgrounds. So yes, of course we talked about netnography or online ethnography or virtual ethnography all day, and so it's just the basic explanation. An ethnography research method has been used in the online world, and it's necessary to understand the social life of the digital age. It's about online societies, interactions, and digital communications, and this term was founded by Kozinets after the revolution of the internet and more generally the digital world. And he was inspired by ethnography, but this time the researcher's field is online world, and the term combines network and ethnography. So I'm working on digital world, but I need to consider the cultural effects, because now I'm living in a different country as a foreigner, and it's kind of a very international and interdisciplinary approach. So the digital age affects all economic, social and cultural areas, and it has many characteristics such as speed, mobility and technology. The consumption and production in everyday life have increased in new media and digital age. And in digital age, being in the network and connected is more important than ever. According to 2016 data, more than 50% of the world's population use the internet, and it's also estimated that 2.87 billion people will be using smartphones by 2020. People have more options than before to connect each other, and it presents a global conscious in cultural world. And this research mainly focuses on music world in terms of technological developments and in media and their effects on musician and audience. Technology changes user habits and audiences' habits, of course, and the system constantly renews itself. The social networking sites create an opportunity for analyzing user thoughts and behaviors. The technology world erases physical borders, and it means a global market for all kind of businesses, and this is the same for music industry. Besides the global markets, localization is becoming increasingly important as a global culture is formed via information technologies. Local identities are transformed as well. So digitalization allows have information and ideas about the local cultures. I work on Turkish music world as a local market, and I have to take consideration the everyday life in my country. And generally speaking, there are a global music business that is affected by digital technologies, but still local markets have their unique features. Now I want to just briefly explain Turkey's technology user habits. Turkey is a country with a young population and widespread use of technology. And according to Digital in 2016 report, 80 million Turkish populations. We have 80 million Turkish populations, and 46 of them are internet users. 42 million of these people use social media. 77% of users are online every day. And the most used social networks are Facebook, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Twitter, and Instagram. And lastly, in the Digital Economy Outlook report made by the OECD, Turkey is the second country of the whole world using smartphone, connecting internet, and usage of social media. That's quite a big number, actually. And now, I'd like to restrict the subject, music industry, and more specifically audience and artists. There are many actors such as record labels, managers, producers, sponsors, media and marketing companies, in addition to musicians, songwriters or composers in music industry. And different fields in creative industries use media effectively, and they might affect the audience's tastes and consumption habits. For the last 20 years, production and consumption of music have changed greatly. Music is under the influence of digital world and economic models during all phases, starting from the recording phase until the moment it reaches the audience. And amateur, independent, or professional musicians and audiences can produce and share their content thanks to new media and technology. The idea of making viral video or having popular social media accounts encourage people to use these technologies. So what have we done so far? I want to share with the first results of interviews that I made with musicians, audiences, and myself. The first one now I'm trying to interpreting the musician's perspective about the digital worlds. So these are our first results. Actually, we are still thinking on these topics. I made interviews with musicians, and these musicians' videos or songs are watched more than 1 billion times on YouTube and the similar websites. And some of the musicians were recognized by audiences via their amateur YouTube videos, and they became popular and successful. And actually, I have a very similar story. And then they made agreement with record labels. Although people think that they became famous because of their success in social media. In fact, after the interviews, we saw it. These artists made their own investments, and they were the producers of their music. And they also knew people who work in traditional and social media. And so we can say they actually, their success of new media was supported by financial and social capital. And the second thought, the importance of the live performance. It has increased after economic damage in album sales and adaptation process. And record labels made agreements called 360 deals with their musicians because they don't make profits from album sales. And the third one, I'm mostly talking about Turkey's music market, by the way, but some of them, of course, we can think about the very generally. And digital revenues are still not enough for musicians in Turkey because iTunes has entered the Turkish market in 2012, and Spotify and Deezer have entered in 2013. The system is relatively new, and if artists don't use the social media accounts actively, their followers can easily forget or ignore them, and audience expect to see musicians on digital media, and according to first interviews, musicians should be online all the time. And yes, the second part of this study, now we are interpreting the behaviors of social media users in a fan page. I have an official fan page, and there are 3,000 followers there. So I share 2 or 3 photos or music video or event news every week. And while some of the shares were about concerts, rehearsals, or live performances, the others were about social responsibilities or the arts world or just everyday life. And the photos, videos of the artists from everyday life were shared in the last category, and there were friends or family of the artists in these contents, and they weren't about my work actually. And according to the results, audiences are much more interested in artists' everyday life. And you can see some of the numbers of contents here. They are very chosen randomly. As you can see, the first third one, my professional photo of a music album, or different kinds of photos from concerts, rehearsals, or just concert posters. And they of course, I can get some reactions like comments or shares, but after I uploaded my daily photo and with my family, with my dog or friends, they reacted more. So actually I realized just a few months ago, and then I started to think about that, because this is the question, what happened and what's changed after the digital world, because they are they fan or follower or just audience? Still, I'm asking this question. And the last parts of this study, of course, I'm still trying to understand the audience of digital age, because when you perform on a stage, you can see people and you can see the reactions, but this is different stage. Still, you are a performer, but you never know whether they like your music or not. So this is a survey result actually. And the first question, we asked them, why do you follow an artist's social media accounts? And they basically answered these questions. I follow them because I like him, or I admire him, or I'm just curious about their life and their posts, and or just get annoyed. These are the reasons to follow someone, artist. And the second question, why would you stop following a famous musician's account? Yes, as you can see, we have three big numbers. In this question, participants could select more than one option, and 70% of the participants mark these options sharing inappropriate contents. If a musician share inappropriate contents, I would stop following, because these shares can be disturbing in terms of ethical values and mostly political reasons. And 50% of the participants don't want the people they follow to advertise other brands on their pages. And the last one, 42% of the participants unfollow if the account is managed by a professional, not by the musician himself. Since the early days of the music industry, managerial services have gained a new dimension in the digital age as an institutional structure. And the last question, we asked them, what's your recent action about the musician you follow? And musicians have to continue their business to provide economic income, and so this question is important for this reason. And 24% of the participants said that they went to a concert of a musician, and 40% of them that said that bought an album legally downloaded or illegally downloaded. And the biggest number is this. They say they listen to the musician's songs or albums on YouTube and similar video websites. YouTube and music videos are very important for music industry, but it's quite new that YouTube makes deals with professional associations in Turkey and provides income to musicians, but still it can be considered as an economic income for musicians. And then lastly, 49% of the participants said that they liked or shared the content of the musician's social media accounts. And to be liked or followed have symbolic importance. They can be used as a reference for employers, advertisers, and followers. So we can talk about an indirect effect. The concept of like or share are the feedbacks of the digital world, and these concepts present a new perspective for communication. Okay, what are our first assumptions so far? Artists can share their music and everyday life, social networking websites, and they can communicate with their fans in digital era. However, it can be quite difficult to draw attention among endless options of social media. If an artist wants to work with a social media expert, he has to make investments as much as same traditional media channels. Independent musicians who don't have budget for it need to use their individual efforts to reach new media sources. This is the new kind of interpretation of do-it-yourself, DIY culture in new media age. And musicians should produce music and advertise it with their own individual labor in new media, which is very flexible, unpredictable, and commercialized fields. And independent musicians can use social media effectively and have many followers, but it's not clear whether this popularity turns into economic advantage in music world. A song, video, band, or an artist can be popular for a while, but the one of the most important feature of the digital world is speed, and therefore products are consumed in a very, very short time. And as we know now, followers are not always fans of the artists. The number of followers has a meaning for employers or generally industry, but it doesn't have a potential for economic opportunities. The dynamics of music business have changed since the digital revolution after 1990s. The relations between fan and artists have changed. Followers want to see artists' everyday life, and this may be a new kind of marketing of music worlds because the star concept was completely different. They were unapproachable, but now artists should be friendly. Thank you.